Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's time for Tuba Tuesdays. So this month, I really want to focus on something that I feel is very important, is life insurance. No one likes to have this conversation. I get it. But it is very, very important to discuss life insurance. So some of the questions, we're going to start with some basic questions and basic information. So what is life insurance? Life insurance is a policy that will pay upon your death to your beneficiary. Beneficiary is someone you designate to receive the funds when you pass. So why would you buy life insurance? Well, one of the reasons is for final expenses. If something happened to you or even a family member or a child, a lot of people don't think about getting life insurance on their kid, is that something happens to you, what are your final wishes? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Those are the two most popular options. There's other options too that are a little more out there, but buried at sea, I guess. But final expenses are very expensive. They just are. Just bare bones, depending where you live, can be several thousands of dollars just for a simple cremation. And it can go even higher if you're planning on having a funeral, and you have to buy a casket, and there's all kinds of things involved in that, and you're looking at $10,000, $20,000 for something like that, unless you have something specific for your final expenses. I'll talk about that later in the series, but unless you're wanting, a big send-off, that could be very expensive. If you want something basic, maybe it's not as expensive. So final expense is one of the biggest reasons to get life insurance, so your family doesn't have to do a GoFundMe or make payments to a funeral home to have you taken care of once you pass, or once a family, spouse passes, kids. Those are the important things that you're going to bear the cost, even your parents. And again, that's a conversation to have with your parents. Another reason to get life insurance is if you have a family. So not only is there the burden of final expenses, but you have small children. Does your family survive on two incomes, one income? What would happen if your income disappeared? How would your spouse manage? Would your kids be able to go to college? Maybe there's other things you want to pay for, weddings and cars, and you can make a big list of what you would want your family still to be able to do if something happened to you. And vice versa. If your spouse passed away, where does that leave you? If your spouse is a stay-home spouse and takes care of the kids and you're the breadwinner and that spouse dies, now you need childcare, which you didn't have to pay for before. So even though you were the sole breadwinner, now you have a big expense for childcare, and it is not inexpensive. So those are some things to consider when it comes to having a family. Lastly, I think another reason people have life insurance, even if you don't have a family or just a spouse, or you have incurred debt and you don't want your family to have that burden of your debt if something happens to you. And there's some rules that vary state by state. In Texas, for example, children are not responsible for their parents' debt. Spouses are, but children are not. But here's the catch. If you own a home and it has a mortgage, someone has to pay the mortgage, or, the house goes back to the mortgage company. So looking at expenses, bills, things you want to make sure are taken care of, If something happens to you or your spouse, that's another reason to do life insurance. So think about those things. Next week, I'm going to talk about the different types of life insurance. So until next week, peace out.